The red-eyed child. The smell of blood was what hit Minjun first as he entered the house, pungent and metallic. He froze in the foyer, one hand still on the doorknob as his eyes adjusted to the dim interior. Had his wife cooked meat for dinner? But no, this scent was raw, primitive. Heart pounding, he stepped further inside. "Hyejin?" he called tentatively. No response except for a faint dripping noise from somewhere within. Toeing off his shoes, Minjun moved toward the living room. His socks immediately became soaked through with something wet and slick. Rounding the corner, he gasped, nearly losing his balance. The entire floor was stained a deep crimson, the liquid congealing into long rivulets that spread outward like a gruesome spiderweb. In the center lay a crumpled form. "Hyejin," Minjun cried, rushing to his wife's body. She was curled on her side, one arm stretched out toward the hallway as if reaching for something. The white carpet beneath her was completely saturated with blood flowing from a gaping neck wound. Minjun fell to his knees, shock and anguish crashing through him. Tears streamed down his face as he rolled Hyejin's body over, cradling her limp form. Her skin was still warm, but no pulse fluttered beneath. Glossy eyes stared past him, vacant and unseeing. A soft footfall at his back made Minjun whirl, still clutching Hyejin. There in the archway stood a small child with snow-white skin and ebony hair. Their face was cast in shadow, head tilted down at an unnatural angle. Minjun's voice broke. Did you see what happened?" The child didn't respond, didn't even seem to breathe. Heart pounding, Minjun gently lay Hyejin's body down and took a step toward the small figure. "Please, if you saw anything, I need to know." Still they stood motionless. Unnerved now, Minjun reached out a tentative hand. As soon as his fingers brushed the child's shoulder, their head jerked up. Minjun staggered back with a strangled cry. The child's eyes were a solid bloody red, tear tracks staining their cheeks. Their tiny mouth opened in a silent wail, more thick blood pouring over colorless lips. The child lifted one arm, pointing at Minjun with a pale trembling finger before vanishing before his eyes. Minjun collapsed to the floor, hyperventilating. His scattered mind could form only one terrified thought: please let this be a nightmare. But the metallic stench of blood persisted. Hyejin remained lifeless beside him. Minjun's world had become a surreal haze of horror and confusion. Who or what was that ghostly child? And had they been responsible for his wife's gruesome fate? Hours later, Minjun sat slumped in a police station chair, shivering uncontrollably as he recounted the traumatic events. The officers exchanged grave looks over his testimony about the red-eyed child. Their reaction sparked an icy fear in his gut. One officer leaned forward, expression grim. "This child you saw, I think it may have been a goengbuing, a spirit of someone who died before their parents." His partner nodded solemnly. "It's a rare and terrible omen. They seek out mothers as revenge for leaving them alone in death." Minjun's mind reeled. "No, it can't be," he choked out. "Ghosts aren't real. This has to be some twisted person in disguise." But even as he said it, doubt crept in. The vacant eyes, the blood weeping from them, no mask could replicate that. The officers could only offer helpless apologies, promising to analyze all evidence. Feeling numb and unmoored, Minjun left the station alone. He aimlessly wandered the darkening streets before finding himself at the doorstep of an ornate building downtown bearing a sign reading simply Temple. Drawn by the promise of answers, Minjun entered. A serene-faced monk greeted him. In broken sentences, Minjun explained his wife's death and the phantom child. The monk's expression turned grave as he listened. Beckoning Minjun to follow, he led the way down a silent corridor to an open doorway. On the floor sat a woman in monk's robes, her posture serene. Eyes closed, she rocked gently back and forth chanting in a low melodic tone. Kneeling before her, the monk murmured, "Venerable Inja, this poor man needs your spirit wisdom. I believe he has encountered a goengbuing. Inja's eyelids fluttered open, gaze settling unerringly on Minjun. Her melodic voice came softly. Yes, I sense a restless spirit nearby. Please, have a seat. Minjun sank awkwardly to the floor, staring at Inja. She said calmly, you are haunted by a most pitiful goengbuing, a child who cannot move on due to the wrongful circumstances of its death. We must determine how to set the spirit at peace. Though Minjun remained skeptical of the supernatural, desperation bid him ask, how do I make it stop haunting me? Goengbuing are trapped between worlds, Inja replied. They are bound to this plane by the all-consuming grief and rage of being torn from life prematurely. We must uncover what trauma caused this spirit's pain, and seek to heal it. She closed her eyes, sensing the air around them. Minutes stretched by in silence. Then Inja began to speak in a hushed, sorrowful tone. There is a great darkness shrouding this soul. I see, a baby abandoned, left to die alone. She still feels the agony of her first and final breaths. There is no one she can blame, no way to ease the devastation of being so discarded. Inja opened her eyes, brimming with tears. Your wife's role as a mother was envy and heartbreak to this child. But destroying more lives will not mend her shattered soul. Minjun sat stunned, profound sadness mingling with his fear. This vengeful ghost had been an innocent baby denied any chance at life. How could he fault her pain? Inja grasped his hand firmly. We must help this goengbuing move on to her next life, where she will be cherished as she deserves. I will perform cleansing rituals to settle her spirit. Minjun looked at her forlornly. You really think you can make her stop haunting me? The monk offered a reassuring smile. Have hope. The goengbuing only want acknowledgement of their unjust end. Help us bring this child peace, and she will leave you in forgiveness. Over the next weeks, Inja conducted intricate ceremonies using chants, incense and offended food to soothe the goengbuing. Though Minjun remained racked with grief for Hyejin, he felt the malevolent presence in their home gradually dissipate. Late one night, a soft caress against his cheek woke Minjun from fitful sleep. Heart leaping in panic, he opened his eyes to find the ghostly child standing over his bed, eyes now a warm brown and filled with sorrow. Spectral tears coursed silently down her translucent cheeks as she regarded him. Slowly, she extended a hand to gently brush Minjun's forehead. A profound sense of calm flowed from her touch. Then she faded away like mist. Minjun rose and wandered through the empty house in the moonlight. Somehow, he knew with certainty the goengbuing had finally found absolution and moved on. Though he would always carry the pain of loss, the malicious energy haunting his home had dissolved. For that small mercy, he wept in relief. The long nights ahead would still be lonely and painful, but now when Minjun closed his eyes, he saw Hyejin's radiant smile instead of her bloodied corpse. He could only hope her spirit, like the child's, had found eternal tranquility.